So I'm looking over the S10 that was made by the Chevy car company, and we're going to look at the Chevy. We're going to look at the Ford. We don't have a Toyota here. This had the Dolphin controller, 50 kilowatts. One interesting thing about the Chevy version is it's a little bit more of a conversion compared to the Ford. You see they got this fancy box, which looks nice, but it also doesn't look like something a car company would make, right? That looks like a regular. So Chevy did not do quite the job that Ford did. They got their vacuum pump there and a heater for hot water. And inside here are two PB6 throttle boxes, like what's used in golf carts. 9.
Gotcha.
So here we have a conversion, and this is the advanced DC motor, which is the 9-inch, the same as the Warp 9 motor, except the Warp 9 is a little bit wider here because they were trying to improve on the design and they put some bigger brushes in. And there's our adapter plate that goes right up to the transmission. This has a clutch in it if the clutch is connected. It's got a pressure plate and the flywheel and all that. Now, we don't usually use the clutch. You usually just leave it in one gear, depending on your controller. And here is the front shaft where you'd bolt your air conditioning and your power steering. This one has the power steering just bypassed. Then you got your vacuum here, so you need a little vacuum pump to run your vacuum.
So you said there's no clutch in there.
Yeah, there is a clutch disc. I was just looking and I don't see the actuator. A lot of times, if the car had an automatic, people will put a standard transmission in, and they won't bother hooking up the clutch because you don't really need it.
So do you just leave it like in the 1-to-1 ratio?
Yeah, well, no, usually it's either second or third gear. You need about a 5-to-1 overall ratio for these motors. Now, the bigger the controller, the less gearing you'll need. So if you put the super big controller in here, well, it'll spin the wheels in 4th gear then. So, you don't need any. Then the clutch, it becomes the problem, because if the clutch slips, then you got a slip-in clutch. And if you have enough power to spin the tires in 4th gear, most clutches will slip like that.
Lots of torque.
Yeah, if it has enough torque that you can break the, but then you end up, we usually.
And what about
that's
overcoming that by not using a transmission and just putting an inverter on the other side of it, hooked to the.
So. Yeah, here, if we go with the bigger motor, this is called the 11-inch.
I'll take a picture.
Yeah. If we go with the 11-inch, then we can go directly to the drive shaft. And there's a couple of different ways of doing that. We can get the spline on here. This will come with a Turbo 400 spline that fits your drive shaft. And you can get these and put them to make them fit with the U-joint to whatever spline you got. The other is to come up with some kind of, these are some old couplers I made years ago. This is one that bolts to the flywheel, and it's got a taper lock. I think that's another one. Now the other, here is another one that bolts to your flywheel for the flywheel type of setup. And here's what we use for bolting our AC on the front end. Our AC goes on the front. That's one of the old belt. You gotta have your belt match your AC. Right. If you got that type of belt, then you need that type on there. So, and we see right over here, he had 2 pulleys for running his AC and power steering. Because I haven't told it. All right, this was my first race truck, and I was one of the first ones to get an 11-inch net gain motor, and I hooked that up to a 2K Zilla controller, and we were having Battery Beach was having an electric car event with drag racing, and I was going to go to that, and it was 60 miles away, and I was going to tow this on a trailer with my other electric pickup truck that I had that I used for my lawn business. So working away at it, trying to get it done in time, and it was really close on the time, and got it together the day before. Went out to try it out, and immediately broke the clutch, which I'd ordered a racing clutch. My thought was at that time that I'm going to have to shift it if you're going to race it. You can't just, you need to go through the gears to get the most out of it. And as soon as I got up to the end of the driveway and on the pavement and hit the gas, it broke the adapter plate. And that was Friday, and the event was Saturday. Or that might have been Thursday, and the event was Friday. But anyway, so I kind of gave up on the idea. Figured, well, I'll just go to the event with my regular car, and that's that, and deal with this later. And then I got inspired and got up at like 10 o'clock and started going out and started taking it apart to see what was the problem. Got it apart, saw the clutch hub busted that attached to the motor. And I thought, well, all right, I'm going to redo this the old style where there's no clutch, just a Lovejoy coupler, or not. I didn't even have a Lovejoy coupler. I welded the spline right into the hub and put it all back together, and went up to the end. Next morning, went up to the end of the road, gave it a test, and sure enough, it spun the wheels in third gear. So I figured, all right, well, I'll go like that. I'll just leave it in one gear. Loaded it on the trailer with really just one little test because I had to get to the event in time. Got there and had never raced it or anything. Got out there on the track, and after a couple of runs up and down, found out that I could leave it in fourth gear, and it still had enough to spin the tires. And I had the big tires on there too. And had a blast at the event.
So what'd you do in a quarter?
Actually, I'd never drag raced before, so I didn't know that you weren't supposed to spin the tires on takeoff. So I really didn't. Yeah, I think it did like a 16-second quarter, which wasn't tremendous, but
And what batteries were used in this?
The AGM yellow top. Well, I had the Exide blue top, which was a copy of the others. But that was this was back when electric cars, we were just starting off with going fast, and this was the first. There was a couple other guys there that had some pretty fast cars. I think a 14-second quarter was about what was the average, and I think the tops that anybody did with lead acid was somewhere around 11 seconds.
What would you say the cost was?
Oh, well, the 2K Zilla is, that's what's in there. That's a little less than $5,000. And the two motors, or 111 is now 30, I think 30, 35, maybe 32, depending on if you get the shaft for the spline or not. And then the batteries, those have gone up a lot. They were about $100 a battery at that time. But now I think they're up there like 200, 250 yellow tops. Yeah, nobody does those anymore. Lithium is so much better. Mm-hmm. Oh, so we're going to look at the Corvette.
Yep. One, right? You
yep,
say you got two, so you got another one back behind it?
Yep, right behind it. The two of them are nose to nose, and there's a little coupler in there, a little Lovejoy coupler.
Okay.
And the 2K Zilla. And there's our forward and reverse contactor. And emergency disconnect there. And this guy used the big heavy 4/0 cable for everything. This was just when lithium was coming out, and unfortunately for him, he passed away before he was waiting for the price of lithium to come down. and that's how we ended back with it. This was one of my controllers back then that I had sold to him. We had a funny time there. For a short while, you couldn't buy these controllers, and the used were going for more price than what the new were. In other words, so I
the battery that,
Yeah, I was
that
gonna
was
say,
used.
will you have any more of the pack anywhere else?
yeah, I got one
One here.
one group there and one group in the back.
Also, just the two.
Yeah, that's 300 volts, so it's not quite the total of a Chevy Volt. It's see the two in the back?
Gotcha. So it's three altogether. Gotcha.
Oh yeah, there we go. Well, he needs some loving, doesn't he?
Pretty cool.
Yeah, it's just
The way this all pieced together.